Hi everyone, how are you all doing? So mostly students, they have asked me that they need all the question and answers of the science chapters. So I have made this video on the chapter Force and Friction, chapter 10, grade 8, science CBSE. And I hope this lesson will be, learning will be enjoyable and all your foundation and your concepts will be clear. So going further, the chapter is Force and Friction, where we'll be covering objective type questions and to choose the correct option. So you will find question number 1: when two forces in the same direction act on an object, then the resultant magnitude of the forces acting on the object is. The options are sum of two forces equal to the smaller force, the difference between the two forces equal to the larger force. So the option is the sum of the two forces. Gravitational force. Now, what type of force is this? As you have studied about the contact force and the non-contact force. So when we talk about the contact and the non-contact force, it's very important you should know the difference between the two. So gravitational force, it is a force which is non-contact. That means it can it act only if the body is charged, or it is zero on the moon, or it opposes motion of a body just like friction, or it is a non-contact force. So it is definitely a non-contact force. So there are varied examples also given in your textbook which talks about the non-contact force. Now, question number 3. This is an example of a contact force. Now, what are the options? Electrostatic force, magnetic force, friction, or gravitational force? So the answer is C, that is friction. Question number 4. This force is our weight. Electrostatic force, magnetic force, friction, or the gravitational force? So answer is D, that is gravitational force. Question number 5. Static friction acts when a body is moving or stationary, rolling, or D part sliding. So static friction acts when it is stationary. So answer is B. The SI unit of force is, the options are meters per second, Newton, Pascal, or Newton per meter. And the answer is Newton. Question number 7. We can expect the force of friction to be greater for an object moving on a surface if the surfaces in contact are. Options are A, smooth and the object is heavier, B, rough and the object is heavier, smooth and the object is lighter, rough and the object is lighter. So your answer is B. I'll put a tick mark to make it easy for you. That is rough and the object is heavier. Question number 8. This force makes the earth go around the sun. So what is that force? Electrostatic force, frictional force, gravitational force, or magnetic force? The answer is C, gravitational force. Question number 9. A streamlined shape is given to automobiles in order to. Options are increase friction, reduce drag, reduce gravitational force, or get greater electrostatic force. And the answer is B, that is reduce drag. Question number 10. Ball bearings are used to give a streamlined shape, increase grip, increase drag, reduce friction. And the answer is D, that is reduce friction. Before going further, as you've got getting all the answers of your textbook questions or the end of unit questions, you'll be finding my video where I'll be explaining this chapter in detail, so that will help you to understand the concept. So these are the answers for the true and false. You can even pause the video and go through all the answers. These are some of the short type answers or questions, Give an example of one contact force. Now, friction is a good example of contact force and it occurs when two surfaces are in direct contact. So when we talk about friction, what is friction? It is the direct contact. Friction is produced when the two bodies or the two objects are rubbed together. Question number 2, what is the SI unit of force? The SI unit of force, it is called Newton, and it is denoted by capital N, and it is named after Sir Isaac Newton. What is spring balance used for? A spring balance is used to measure force or weight, and it works based on the stretching of a spring. Give an example of one non-contact force. Now, what is non-contact force? As we have seen in the previous slide, that gravitational force is an example of non-contact force, and it acts without any physical contact between objects. Now, when we talk about the two advantages of friction, friction helps us walk without slipping. It also allows vehicles to drop or to brake and stop safely. So these are the two advantages of friction. Let's see some of the definitions. Applied forces. An applied force is a force that is exerted on an object by another object or person from the outside. It can cause the object to move, stop, or change direction depending on the strength and direction of the force. Next is, what is static friction? Now, it is the frictional force that acts between two surfaces when there is no relative motion between them. It must be overcome to start the motion of an object and is usually greater than kinetic energy. What is rolling friction? It is the resistance that occurs when a round object like wheel or ball rolls over a surface. It is usually smaller than both static and sliding friction, which is why wheels help reduce overall resistance. Now, what is sliding friction? It is the force that opposes the motion of two surfaces sliding past each other. It generates heat and slows down the movement of objects in contact, requiring effort to keep motion going. And let's talk about wear and tear. It refers to the gradual damage or deterioration of materials due to repeated use of constant friction. So it often results in reduced performance or failure of machines or tools over time. And now we are going to see what is the dominant force that acts between two electrically charged objects called. Now, the dominant force that acts between two electrically charged objects, it is called electrostatic force. Now, this force can either pull them together, or that's attract, or push them apart, that is repel, depending on their charges. Now, the very important question which is frequently asked in exams, write down two factors on which the magnitude of frictional force between two surfaces depends. Now, the two factors which you have to remember, the nature of the surfaces in contact, that is, rougher surfaces have more friction than smoother surfaces. And the second is how hard the surfaces are pressed together. So if you press two surfaces together with more force, the friction between them increases. Now, how can we change the shape of an object? We can change the shape of an object by applying a force. So basically, what is force? Force is push or pull. And when you squeeze a sponge, its shape changes. Or when you take a clay or a lump of a clay, you can mold it into different shapes. So it all depends upon the amount of force which is applied. Now there is a question related to that one condition necessary for frictional force to act. One condition what is actually necessary for it is that there must be contact between two forces. If you could see these bold words underlined, if two surfaces are not touching, there can be no friction between them, which you have to remember. Now, but when we talk about advantages, so there is also a disadvantage of friction. Now, friction is a disadvantage because it often opposes motion and causes things to wear out. For example, Friction makes it harder to push a heavy box, and it causes the soles of our shoes to wear thin over time. So it also produces unwanted heat. So that's a disadvantage. Now the next is, why are oils and grease used in machinery? This is again, it is to reduce friction. So if we underline here, between moving parts. When oil or grease is applied, it forms a thin layer between the surfaces, making them smoother and allowing the parts to slide past each other more easily. And this helps to prevent the wear and tear. So you need to remember this word. These are some of the long answer type questions, which question number 1, discuss the effect of force. As we discussed about, that force is what? A push or a pull. And it can do many things to an object, and here are the main effects of force. I'll quickly erase this. Yes. Going further. It also changes the state of a motion. It changes the direction of motion. It changes the shape and size of an object. So forces are very powerful, and it can cause a lot of changes in the world around us. Okay? So this question is very important. To describe an activity that the force of friction between two surfaces depends on the nature of the two surfaces in contact. So there are many activities here, but this is one of the activity which is mentioned that will help you to understand about the friction, how it depends upon the nature of the surfaces. So you can pause the video and you can go through this activity, and that will help you to understand. The other videos will help you to understand more in detail, and yes, and then your concepts will be clear, I'm sure. Next important word which is used is that, what is streamline shape? Now explain and give 2 examples. It is a special kind of shape that is designed to reduce the drag or resistance caused by fluids like air or water. Now, objects with streamlined shapes, they have smooth, tapering bodies that allow the fluid to flow easily over them. Now, if you might have noticed the shape of a plane, it's not a very flat between, it's a streamlined shape. It's like this, it's a streamlined shape. So why does that so? If let us imagine you are trying to push a flat board through water versus pushing a pointed board. Now the flat board would be very hard to push. Why? Because it creates a lot of resistance. But on the other part, if you talk about the pointed board, it cuts through the water easily. So this is because the board has which shape? You please need to remember, children, it's streamlined shape. When air or water flows over a streamlined object, it separates smoothly and then comes back together, minimizing the force that tries to slow the object down. I hope this point is clear. More in detail will be explained as well. So if you see that, can you see the picture on the screen? There are 2 examples of streamlined shapes, birds and fishes. Most birds have streamlined bodies that help them fly through the air, but with less resistance. Okay. Now, similarly, fish have what type of bodies? Streamlined bodies that allow them to swim through water very efficiently. Then we have aeroplanes and rockets, as we were talking about. The bodies of the aeroplanes and rockets, how are they designed? Once again, please remember, it is streamlined shape. Now this helps them to cut through the air at high speeds without too much air resistance, and yes, saving fuel and allowing them to travel faster. And this design is called streamline. Now, after knowing the streamline shapes, how can the friction be reduced, or in what way will it help if the friction is reduced? So you find some of the points on the boxes. If you see here, friction is very useful in many situations, but sometimes it's a disadvantage because it causes wear and tear, it causes waste of energy and slows down the motion. So these are the boxes. I have tick mark here. You can pause the video and go through these points which are mentioned regarding how friction can be reduced. Students, as we have seen some of the points how to reduce friction, now there is also a question can be asked that how can we increase friction between two surfaces? Making surfaces rougher, increasing the pressing force. I quickly tick mark. Increasing the pressing force, using materials with high coefficient of friction, or removing lubricants. So these points are very important. It is also explained with the examples, so you can go through, and I'm sure that will help you to understand that how can we increase friction between two surfaces. So thank you so much, and I'm sure that you've got all the questions and answers of the end of unit. In the next video, there will be explanation of more in detail about force and friction. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.